Welcome! Today, we're diving into the essentials of fair housing law. Whether you're renting, buying, or selling a home, these laws are designed to protect you from discrimination and ensure everyone has equal access to housing opportunities. Understanding fair housing law is crucial for tenants, landlords, real estate agents, and homeowners alike. In this video, we'll break down what fair housing law is, why it matters, and how it impacts your everyday life. Let's start by exploring the basic definition and purpose of fair housing law before moving into its history and key protections. Fair housing law refers to a set of federal, state, and local regulations that prohibit discrimination in housing-related activities. At its core, these laws make it illegal to treat someone unfairly because of certain protected characteristics. The primary goal is to ensure that everyone, regardless of their background, has the same chance to find a safe and affordable place to live. This means landlords, sellers, and real estate professionals must follow specific rules to prevent bias and promote equality in housing transactions. To truly understand fair housing law, it helps to look at its history. The roots of these laws go back to the civil rights movement of the 1960s, when activists fought for equal rights in all areas of life, including housing. The Fair Housing Act was passed in 1968 as part of this movement, marking a major milestone in the fight against housing discrimination. Over the years, additional amendments and local laws have strengthened these protections, reflecting society's ongoing commitment to fairness and equality. The cornerstone of fair housing law in the United States is the Fair Housing Act of 1968. This federal law makes it illegal to discriminate in the sale, rental, or financing of housing based on race, color, religion, sex, or national origin. Later amendments added protections for people with disabilities and families with children. The Fair Housing Act applies to most housing situations, with only a few exceptions, and is enforced by the Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD. Fair housing law identifies specific groups, known as protected classes, who are shielded from discrimination. These include race, color, religion, sex, national origin, disability, and familial status. This means that landlords and sellers cannot refuse to rent or sell to someone, set different terms, or provide different services based on these characteristics. Understanding who is protected is key to recognizing when a violation may have occurred. One of the most fundamental aspects of fair housing law is the protection against discrimination based on race and color. This means that no one can be denied housing, charged different prices, or offered different terms because of their racial background or skin color. These protections are rooted in the nation's history of civil rights struggles and are strictly enforced by federal and state agencies. Fair housing law also prohibits discrimination based on religion and national origin. This means landlords and sellers cannot treat someone differently because of their faith or where they or their ancestors come from. These protections help ensure that everyone, regardless of their beliefs or background, has equal access to housing opportunities. Sex is another protected class under fair housing law. This means it's illegal to treat someone differently in housing because they are male or female. In recent years, courts and agencies have also interpreted these protections to cover gender identity and sexual orientation, ensuring even broader equality in housing. People with disabilities are specifically protected by fair housing law. Landlords must make reasonable accommodations for tenants with disabilities, such as allowing service animals or modifying policies. In some cases, they may also need to permit reasonable modifications to the property, like installing ramps or grab bars, to ensure accessibility. Familial status means families with children under 18 are protected from discrimination. This includes parents, guardians, pregnant women, and people securing custody of children. Landlords cannot refuse to rent to families or impose different rules just because children are involved. These protections help ensure families have fair access to housing. Fair housing law applies to most housing providers, including landlords, property managers, real estate agents, and lenders. There are a few exceptions, such as owner-occupied buildings with 4 or fewer units, but in general, anyone involved in renting, selling, or financing housing must follow these laws. Understanding who is covered helps clarify responsibilities and rights. Under fair housing law, it's illegal to refuse to rent or sell housing, set different terms, or provide different services based on protected characteristics. This includes advertising that indicates a preference, denying access to facilities, or harassing tenants. The law covers a wide range of discriminatory actions to ensure fairness. Discrimination can take many forms. For example, a landlord might refuse to rent to someone because of their race, or a real estate agent might steer clients to certain neighborhoods based on religion. Even subtle actions, like making different rules for families with children, can violate fair housing law. Recognizing these examples helps you spot potential violations. Fair housing law also regulates how housing can be advertised. It's illegal to use language that suggests a preference or limitation based on protected characteristics. For example, ads cannot say no children or Christians only. Housing providers must use inclusive language to avoid discrimination and ensure everyone feels welcome. Landlords must make reasonable accommodations for tenants with disabilities. This could mean allowing a service animal in a no-pets building or adjusting policies to meet a tenant's needs. These accommodations are required unless they impose an undue financial or administrative burden on the housing provider. In addition to accommodations, tenants with disabilities may need to make physical modifications to their homes, like installing ramps or grab bars. Landlords must allow these changes if they are reasonable, though tenants may be responsible for the cost. This ensures housing is accessible to everyone. Fair housing law also protects tenants from harassment and retaliation. Landlords cannot harass tenants based on protected characteristics or retaliate against them for asserting their rights. This includes making threats, increasing rent, or trying to evict someone for filing a complaint. While fair housing law covers most housing, there are some exemptions. For example, owner-occupied buildings with 4 or fewer units, religious organizations, and private clubs may have limited exemptions. However, these are narrow and do not allow for discrimination based on race. In addition to federal law, many states and cities have their own fair housing laws. These may provide even broader protections, covering additional characteristics like sexual orientation, age, or source of income. It's important to know the laws in your area, as they may offer more rights than federal law alone. The U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, is the main agency enforcing fair housing law. State and local agencies may also investigate complaints and enforce their own laws. These agencies have the authority to investigate, mediate, and take legal action when violations occur. If you believe your fair housing rights have been violated, you can file a complaint with HUD or a local agency. The process is straightforward. Submit your complaint, provide details, and the agency will investigate. If they find evidence of discrimination, they can help resolve the issue or take legal action. Once a complaint is filed, the agency will investigate by gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses, and reviewing documents. They may try to mediate a settlement between the parties. If mediation fails and discrimination is found, the agency can pursue legal remedies, including fines or court orders. If a violation is found, several remedies are available. These can include monetary damages for the victim, orders to stop the discriminatory practice, and sometimes civil penalties against the violator. The goal is to make the victim whole and prevent future discrimination. It's important to know that retaliation for filing a fair housing complaint is illegal. Landlords cannot evict, harass, or otherwise punish someone for asserting their rights. If retaliation occurs, additional legal remedies may be available to the victim. Fair housing law also applies to mortgage lending. Lenders cannot discriminate in making loans, setting terms, or providing services based on protected characteristics. The Equal Credit Opportunity Act and other laws work alongside fair housing law to ensure fairness in lending. Redlining is a historic practice where lenders denied loans or insurance to people in certain neighborhoods, often based on race. This practice is illegal under fair housing law, but its effects are still felt today. Understanding redlining helps explain why fair housing protections are so important. Steering is when real estate agents guide clients to or away from certain neighborhoods based on protected characteristics. Blockbusting involves encouraging homeowners to sell by suggesting that people of a certain race are moving in. Both practices are illegal under fair housing law and undermine community diversity. Fair housing organizations sometimes use testers, people who pose as renters or buyers, to check for discrimination. These testers report on their experiences, helping agencies identify and address violations. Testing is a valuable tool for enforcing fair housing law and promoting accountability. Newer multifamily housing must meet certain accessibility standards under fair housing law. This includes features like accessible entrances, wider doors, and usable kitchens and bathrooms. These requirements help ensure that people with disabilities can live independently and comfortably. Online advertising is also covered by fair housing law. Housing providers must ensure their online listings do not contain discriminatory language or preferences. This applies to websites, social media, and other digital platforms, making fair housing compliance more important than ever in the digital age. Social media has become a major platform for housing advertisements. Fair housing law applies here too, meaning posts and messages must not express any preference or limitation based on protected characteristics. Housing providers should review their social media content to ensure compliance. Technology is changing how we find and offer housing. From online applications to virtual tours, fair housing law still applies. Housing providers must ensure that their technology platforms are accessible and do not inadvertently discriminate against protected classes. Short-term rental platforms like Airbnb are also subject to fair housing law. Hosts cannot refuse guests or set different terms based on protected characteristics. Both hosts and platforms must take steps to prevent discrimination and promote equal access. Homeowners associations, HOAs, must also comply with fair housing law. HOAs cannot enforce rules or make decisions that discriminate against residents based on protected characteristics. This ensures that all residents have equal rights within their communities. Insurance companies are also covered by fair housing law. They cannot refuse to insure, cancel policies, or set different terms based on protected characteristics. This helps ensure that everyone can obtain the insurance they need for their homes. Advertising platforms, both online and offline, must ensure that their services do not facilitate discriminatory ads. They may use filters and review processes to detect and prevent violations. This helps create a fairer housing market for everyone. Real estate agents play a key role in upholding fair housing law. They must treat all clients equally, avoid steering, and provide the same information and services to everyone. Agents who violate these rules can face serious penalties and lose their licenses. Landlords are directly responsible for following fair housing law. They must not discriminate in advertising, screening, leasing, or managing properties. Landlords should have clear policies and training to ensure compliance and avoid costly legal issues. Tenants have the right to fair treatment in all aspects of housing. They should know their rights, recognize signs of discrimination, and feel empowered to report violations. Education and awareness are key to ensuring tenants can protect themselves. Homebuyers are also protected by fair housing law. Sellers and agents must not discriminate in showing homes, making offers, or negotiating sales. Homebuyers should be aware of their rights and seek help if they suspect unfair treatment. Sellers must comply with fair housing law when listing and selling their homes. They cannot refuse to sell or set different terms based on protected characteristics. Sellers should work with knowledgeable agents to ensure all transactions are fair and legal. Property managers are responsible for enforcing fair housing law in the properties they oversee. This includes screening tenants, handling complaints, and maintaining policies that prevent discrimination. Proper training and clear procedures are essential for compliance. Fair housing law promotes diverse, inclusive communities by ensuring everyone has equal access to housing. This diversity enriches neighborhoods, fosters understanding, and creates stronger, more vibrant communities for all residents. Fair housing law is about more than just rules. It's about justice, equality, and opportunity. By protecting people from discrimination, these laws help create a society where everyone can thrive. Understanding and supporting fair housing is essential for building a better future. To sum up, fair housing law protects everyone's right to find and keep a home without facing discrimination. Whether you're a tenant, landlord, buyer, or seller, knowing your rights and responsibilities is key. By working together, we can ensure fair, equal housing opportunities for all. Thanks for watching, and remember, fair housing is everyone's right.